Among the snow-topped tents of this refugee camp, the battle to survive is a daily one. Well over 1 million people have fled the Syrian war for Lebanon, but those driven from their homes now face another deadly threat. In the country's Bekaa region, they fight off freezing conditions as the bite of a harsh winter takes its toll. Some have succumbed. It is thought that at least 4 refugees died during recent heavy snowfall and storms. Fatmi Zakur, whose husband was killed in the Syrian war, worries for the fate of her 3 children.
Everything changed for us here. My husband was killed and I have 2 handicapped kids, and my oldest daughter has heart problems. We're living in a tent now.
Some help is at hand for Fatmi and her family. In the wake of the recent storm, the government teamed up with NGOs and sent out emergency doctors to try and help families housed in these most basic of shelters. But with at least 400,000 refugees in the Bekaa region alone, they face an uphill battle.
It was acceptable to a certain degree. They were able to deal with it, but they weren't expecting the harshness of the weather in terms of how to heat themselves. They have a lot of very young children and elderly people, so we were forced to come into each tent on its own and give them aid within the tents. They couldn't leave the tents. Everything was cut: the roads, the water, the electricity.
In another temporary camp nearby, one of more than 1,400 across the country, the situation is no less dire. For many, this is not the first winter living in such conditions, and health problems are inevitable. Respiratory issues and infections are common, while chronic illnesses are exacerbated. But as well as giving health checks, the provision of sufficient nutrition and a means of staying warm can mean the difference between life and death. Here, UNICEF works with other organisations, such as Beyond Association, to provide much-needed clothing to children. Amid these bleak conditions, there are renewed calls for the international community to do more to help families desperately in need.
Last year there was more money and more funding to help them than this year. So this year, even all the UN agencies, and they lack of funding for this.
Those in the camps can only hope. John Owens for VOA News, Bekaa Valley, Lebanon.